Democrats and people who I considered or consider themselves liberal, the liberal class has become illiberal, right? They've abandoned what it means to be a liberal. Like I always, I sometimes make a joke in my act about, I'm for freedom of speech, I'm against censorship, I'm for bodily autonomy, I'm for, I'm pro-choice, I'm anti-war, and that makes me a right winger now.
Yeah.
That's what it's amazing, right? And the liberals are rabid censorship for censorship. They're completely pro-war, right? They've been completely hoodwinked by the propaganda about Putin and Russia, and they don't know. That's the thing about Americans. They're the most propagandized people in the world, and they have no idea. Right, people in China know when they're being propagandized, right? And people in the old Soviet Union knew when they were being people in America think like, "What? I'm just watching the news." Even though Chomsky wrote Manufacturing Consent and, 30 years ago, they still think their consent is not being manufactured, which it is. It's amazing to me. So anyway, the realignment, I mean, look at the people there's a lot of Democrats surrounding. Trump used to consider himself a Democrat. Matt Taibbi, Elon Musk, right? I'm pretty sure he voted for Joe Biden, right? Let's see, who Tulsi Gabbard was the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee. So there definitely is, and I subscribe to what I'm more on. I know there's a lot of people who are actual lefties who are hypercritical of Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Kash Patel, and I'm like, yeah, I have big disagreements with Trump and Cash and Pam Bondi and Tulsi and RFK, but I also have lots of agreements with them, right? So I think you got to be able to, it doesn't, people are always talking about, oh, you think Elon's intentions are, with doing Doge. And I'm like, it doesn't matter what his intentions are. It only matter in politics. It only matters what the outcome is. It only, we'll know them by their fruits. Like, what did they do? It's like, I say, it didn't matter if Lincoln freed the slaves because he thought it was going to help him get laid. It didn't matter what his intention was. It mattered what the outcome was. That's all that matters. That's why they call making legislation making sausage, and you don't want to see how it's done. It only matters what the outcome is. So I'm more in line with I know Chris Hedges, who I respect a lot, is very down on everything that's happening, and he just thinks that they're all just a criminal enterprise and they're grifting and they're collapsing in on themselves. And I'm like, I actually see them stopping the Ukraine war, telling Europe, you're on your own. We're not going to be there to protect you. Got do your own thing militarily. And that excites me. I like that they're purging the deep state. They're getting rid of it's like a revolution against the neocons. That's what it feels like to me. And again, we'll have to see how it plays out. Now, his Achilles heel, and it's shared by everybody in his cabinet, is Israel Palestine. That's from my point of view. And now his solution is not a solution, but other people say, well, yeah, that's just him negotiating, doing art of the deal. He wants to move all the Palestinians out. That's just it. I'm like, okay, I don't know what the deal is he wants then, but anyway, um, I'm excited in a lot of ways, and I think there is a realignment happening for sure. I think the fact that Donald Trump is a Republican just is kind of happenstance. You know, um, his rhetoric around immigration was shared by every Democrat since Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton used to rail against illegal immigrants, saying they come here and take our jobs and they come here and use our services. Hillary Clinton said they have to learn English, they have to pay a big fine, they have to they're all the same thing with Barack Obama. But then when Donald Trump got the nomination, I think that they had to figure out a way to separate themselves from him, right? Because they're a party of Wall Street, the Democrats, then they said they're not a party of workers, and they knew that, so they had to, "Oh, we'll paint him as a racist, and we'll paint him as a traitor to our country." And so now all the things that, they used to say about it, I mean, he's a little more bombastic about his immigration, but
Yeah.
the message is almost exactly the same. And so that's why they and, 45% of Hispanics voted for him. So
And I think 55 for 40, 55, 54% of male has like Latinos
oh,
are.
really?
It was like a majority of Latino men, as I understand it, which was that's kind of the first time in like since World War II, probably, that a Republican got a majority of like a large minority vote like that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they say his numbers didn't go up with African Americans from the last time, I mean, but I think it was over 20%, which is still kind of amazing for a Republican, any Republican, and especially a guy who they've painted as a racist.
It's one of these things where right before you showed up, I saw there was a senator from, I think, Missouri calling calling Elon Musk a dick on Twitter.
Yeah,
And
it's
the thing that was so funny to me is that we just did a video about the 60 Minutes piece where Germany is now arresting people
yeah,
for exactly that. There was actually a part
you
of the
can't
story.
insult.
He was a politician who was called a pimmel, and they went after the person that did it. And I have a feeling that same senator likes those laws. So why do you think that that's happened? Why has the political left in America like turned on free speech? That's such a strange like transformation.
Well, they just, there's an old saying, you scratch a liberal and underneath is a fascist, right? You've heard that, right? And I never really understood that, but I get it now. Especially during COVID. Like I said, they went against, they used to say I'm pro-choice. You don't hear them saying that much anymore. Now they say they're pro-abortion, which is weird. I have met some people who are pro-abortion, but it's a weird thing to be pro about. Like, I'm pro-choice, but they can't say pro-choice anymore because they were for mandating the COVID vaccine, which is not, you don't get a choice. Your choice is, you don't have a job and you can't travel. That's your choice.
My
So
body, my choice with an asterisk.
yeah,
Sure.
that's right. Except when it comes to uh, this vaccine that's not a vaccine, that doesn't do what they said it did, and the fact and anyway, so the Democrats became authoritarian, and now it's funny, I was watching that 60 Minutes thing about Germany, and they're saying that they're trying to, uh, they're censoring speech that would create people to engage in extremism and they're right-wing extremism, right? And I'm like, "Well, what do you call what you're doing?" What you're doing right now is putting people in prison for speech. You're putting people in prison for protesting a genocide that's happening in Gaza. You're putting people and at the same time, you're funding literal Nazis in Ukraine. You're the extreme right. The people who consider themselves liberals and lefts, they're the extreme right. They're look what they're doing. They're putting people I mean, censorship is the hallmark of dictators, right? And authoritarians and fascists. And they look at it like it's the Christian thing to do. And I don't know if they'll ever see the light on that. They just think that you have to protect people, marginalized groups from hate speech. They do it. I mean, every dictator, when they censor and keep outside information, they always say, "Well, we're doing it for your own good." They say, "Oh, we have to protect minority groups and the marginalized groups, and we have to hate speech." And like I said last night, people who want to uh, police hate speech are people who just hate speech.
One of the things that's so it's just so it should have been obvious that the problem with this is who defines hate speech, and it ends
Of
up
course,
the majority.
that's right.
So the entire premise of the First Amendment was always protection of minority rights. Like
That's
that
right.
was a fundamental thing. Like you don't have Martin Luther King, you don't have the civil rights movement if you don't have protection of those voices, because that was the minority voice. It's obvious. It's easy to be in the majority, right? So how does that? Uh, Maybe this is the same question asking again. It's just shocking to me that that lesson has gotten lost.
It's shock believe me, every day I wake up and I'm flummoxed. I can't believe that the people I've known all my life are now pro-censorship. I couldn't believe people I knew all my life were pro mandates of experimental medical treatments, and they had the most ridiculous reasons to back it up, they don't know anything about COVID. It's like they went out of their way not to know anything about the vaccines, about the adverse events, the frequency, about if it stops transmission or contraction, or if it wasn't made as a bioweapon. They don't know anything. They don't know anything about natural immunity, herd immunity. They didn't know anything about that. There was no science behind any of the lockdowns, any of the masks. There's no science behind any of it. They didn't, and they don't care. That's the thing. Like, I keep waiting for, at some point they're going to go, hey, we were lied to. That's not right. I feel insulted. I feel violated. That they don't they don't feel insulted. They don't feel violated. They don't even think about it. Now they just say, "Oh, it's COVID's over." That's what they say.
If you like this clip, you should check out the full video and all the other great content we've got at Dad Saves America. So be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring that bell so you won't miss our new stuff as it drops each week.